In the NFL, look, it's always good to get a win, but not all wins are good wins. The Las Vegas Raiders beat the Jacksonville Jaguars this past Sunday 19-14, earning their third win of the year. And essentially, they just won their right to give away draft positioning to land Shedeur Sanders. So they won the game, but they also won themselves a chance of not getting a franchise quarterback. And that's the biggest thing that the Raiders are missing. They haven't had a franchise quarterback since Rich Gannon 2 decades ago, pretty much. And Derek Carr was good, but I wouldn't have called him a franchise quarterback because he was never a quarterback that you looked at and said, yeah, this could be the guy who could lead us to a Super Bowl. You look at Shedeur Sanders or even Cam Ward, both of these quarterbacks are generational talents, in my opinion. If you get the right head coach in there and you give them the right talent, they could potentially lift you up from poverty, which you've been living in for the last 2 decades. The Raiders haven't been good ever since I came out the womb. So it seems like I'm hating on this team when, in all actuality, I'm just being honest about this franchise that I've grown up seeing, which has not been good. The Raiders have always consistently been one of the worst teams in the NFL every year that I've been watching football. So, of course, I'm going to be a little bit harsh on this team. And the fact that you win your right to go from second in the draft to picking 6 really is a massive blow to the future of this organization. Because you can say, regardless of how things end this season, regardless if Antonio Pierce is back for 2025, regardless if you hire a new head coach, you can still land the franchise quarterback. I'm going to ask you how. Are you going to try to trade up for one? Because you tried to trade up for Jaylen Daniels last year, and this is well-sourced, well-documented. All you got to do is get on your phone, go to Google, and look up Raiders tried to trade up for quarterback in the 2024 NFL Draft, and you will see 3 articles. CBS Sports, the New York Times, and a few other places, well-sourced, that said that the Patriots, were unwilling to move on from the 3rd pick. Washington was unwilling to move on from the 2nd pick, and the Raiders were SOL. And then with the Falcons drafting Michael Penix in the top 10, you pretty much had no other serviceable quarterback from last year's draft class to choose from to get your franchise guy, which is why you went best player available and you got blessed with Brock Bowers. But now you're in the same situation going into this offseason by winning this meaningless game than what you were last year, because it hasn't changed. You went into last season not being able to draft the quarterback, and you're going into this offseason in the same predicament. And there's no guarantee that a team that has a top 2 selection is going to want to trade up. And there's no guarantee that even if you are able to get the Patriots and the Jaguars to listen to a trade offer, somebody might outbid you. How much are you willing to gamble on trying to land your franchise quarterback? You see, if you just would have lost this game like how you should have, because I get it. Antonio Pierce, there's no guarantee that he's going to be around to benefit from the Raiders having a high draft pick. There's no guarantee that he's going to be around for the possibility of maybe having a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders. But at this point, you had no reason to win this game. What are you playing for? Because if you already know that you're going to get fired, you're pretty much playing just to stick it to the organization. You're saying that I know they're going to fire me, so I'm going to stick it to them and not give them what they want, which is the ability to draft a franchise-changing quarterback. If anything, all this win did for Antonio Pierce is further give the Raiders more reason to fire him as soon as this season is over. Because if he just would have lost this game like he should have, maybe the Raiders would have been like, you know what, you tank like how we wanted you to, so therefore we're not going to fire you. Or maybe they end up breaking them off a little bit of some incentives for losing, but I don't really think the Raiders were tanking this year. I really believe that this team is just as bad as what their record shows, because this ain't college football. In the NFL, you are what your record says you are. And the Raiders are one of the worst teams in the NFL. However, they're not the only team that sucks. There are a few others, and they're ahead of the Raiders. And it looks like the Giants are going to be the lock to get Shedeur Sanders. And whoever can get the second pick, whether it be the Titans, the Browns, or whoever wants to trade up, they're going to get Cam Ward. And you're going to be, once again, on the outside looking in, missing on a franchise quarterback. Now, your only chance to land a potential franchise guy at QB is by bringing the bank to Sam Darnold in free agency. You better bring the bank and you better open up that checkbook to get Sam Darnold when the time comes in this offseason, because he's going to demand at least $50 million a year, and he deserves it based off how well he has played this season. Now, is Sam Darnold worth that kind of money? I don't really think so. I kind of feel like Sam Darnold is a little bit of a product of the environment that he's in, with the great head coach that knows how to get the most out of quarterbacks. He's throwing to one of the best receiving cores in the league, Jay Jettas, Jordan Addison, and he goes from Minnesota to the Las Vegas Raiders. We know, for as good as Sam Darnold's been this year, before this season, he hasn't really been that great. He's been no better than a low-end bridge quarterback at his best, so we could see him revert back to that same level. Remember, the Raiders signed Gardner Minshew in free agency this past offseason, and he played really good for the Indianapolis Colts last year under Shane Steichen in year one. He nearly got them to the playoffs, and we saw how much Gardner Minshew's play dropped off this season compared to how well he played with Indianapolis. So we could say the same thing could happen with Sam Darnold. And although there's no guarantee that Shedeur was going to be a surefire thing to work at this level, I'm pretty confident that he would be. You know, like, something about Shedeur Sanders with the it factor that he has just makes me believe and have a lot of confidence that he's going to be a really successful quarterback at the next level. And for the Raiders to fumble away the opportunity of being able to draft somebody that could possibly change the trajectory of their franchise, who could possibly make this franchise relevant again, you know, it just took the point out of winning. If anything, you won, but you lost at the same time. Because winning late in the season, these last 3 weeks, does nothing for you but just hinder your overall goals, which is to eventually be a Super Bowl contender. And to do so, you need a franchise quarterback. And the Raiders don't have that in the division that has 3 of them, and they see them twice in a season. Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix eventually is going to be one of those names as well. And what are you going to have to show for it? Whether you're going to sign Justin Fields in free agency or you're going to sign Sam Darnold, I don't know if that's going to work out. You were best suited to draft the quarterback by holding on to that second overall pick, possibly getting that first overall pick, and intentionally trying to lose to Jacksonville. The Raiders have found new ways to lose all season long. With the way they lost to Kansas City, I thought at this point they probably were tanking, but it just turns out this team is just that bad. You held Jacksonville because now they could be a lot closer to getting Travis Hunter. Or maybe they could use their pick to trade down for another team to surpass you and get a quarterback. Because who knows how aggressive Tom Telesco is going to be at trying to get a quarterback. Because they were trying to get one last offseason and they failed. And the same thing could happen this offseason. You could be in the same situation that you were last year. So the Raiders just gave away their opportunity to get Shedeur Sanders. It's really disappointing because a lot of you Raiders fans out there had the tank for Shedeur posters out, and yet it looks like it's time to just throw him in the trash because it looks like he's going to be a Giant, a Brown, a Titan, whoever else, because it doesn't look like you're going to have the ability to draft him. And knowing Antonio Pierce, he might just win another game just to further stamp it to you if he knows that he's not going to be back